We didn't go live first, yeah?
We are live.
We are now.
We were meant to. Well, we're live. Let's do it. Let's go again then. Good evening. Welcome to the Sunday edition of Spurs Diehards TTID, Tottenham Till I Die. It's a sad night tonight, I think. You'll all know we lost the game 3-2 at Brighton, having been 2 up at half-time. It's, as maybe we were talking about before, maybe it's all too familiar, but before we start the analysis, going to start by introducing our guests. We are expecting more. Might be we get other people to jump on as the night goes on. But first of all, to my very old friend, Jem Silverstone. Good evening, Jeremy.
Good evening.
How are you? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And looking forward to an evening of talking about anything but Spurs. So we'll just discuss strictly tonight.
No, that's fine. How about, should we start with whatever happened to the Boo Radleys? Yeah? Why do men pick their noses at red traffic lights? I mean, these are all topics worthwhile discussing. Unfortunately, not tonight. And to my co-founder, Adrian. Good evening, Adrian. How are you tonight?
Good to be here. I love the shows anyway. I mean, I'm fine. I mean, it takes a brave man to run podcasts when you're suffering a defeat and you have to dissect it all.
Yeah.
But being professional as we are here in a discerning group, we shall do that because that's what we're about.
It is what we're about. However disappointing, but I was so looking forward at half time to a show where we'd be celebrating another big win, and it didn't happen. People are coming into the chat all the time, as I can see on my buttons, but let me just bring up a couple. To Phil, good evening, Phil.
Evening, Phil.
One word to say about complacency. I think you've got a point, and I think we'll be discussing it. Ben, an old adversary of mine, Mr. Kaufman, the coffee man. How are you, sir? Hope you're well. Got to say, don't think it was much to do with inverted fullbacks today, but we can discuss it. Graham, Spurs GCTV, great guy, gutted, a good word to describe it. And yeah, smash the like, smash the subscribe button, guys. It helps us. Ben is saying he can hear the stream twice. There's an echo. Right, don't know where it's coming from.
Your headphones.
Well, it shouldn't be, but I am going to have to. Adrian, take it through the chat while I take the headphones off and see if that helps.
Right, Mod Ben's in the building, the Kaufmeister, and we've got Phil Kyle Spurs. Thank you for coming in, Phil. We've got Mod Mark the Sheriff. He's in there. Graham, Spurs GTV. Thanks for joining us, Graham, on this what is going to be a hard time for all of us. Phil, come on, you Spurs is in here. Hello to Graham. Graham says hello to Mark. We've got Destiny 5, a regular friend of the show's in here. We have Paul Brown in the list as well. He's here as well in the chat. It's all good. We have 14 of you in the chat at the moment. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Smash the like buttons and please leave a comment. I'm a cow moo is in the chat. Lovely name that is. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. True.
Yeah.
So true, never a true word.
Been there before, Adrian. I'm going to talk. Guys in the chat, can you hear an echo now? Just let me know. That's better. Well, it must be those expensive Bose headphones that I went out and spent fortunes on just so I could do live streams. But no, I'm lying. Okay. Well, that's obviously the problem. So they're off. I'm sitting out. I think a fair number of you will know that I'm in Spain. I'm sitting on a balcony, really warm, fan on and what have you, but just so I don't disturb the neighbours too much. but it is what it is. So let's talk about, and let's start. I'm going to start with where I intended to start. We'll talk about other stuff after. But that was the starting lineup. Jem, there was no real surprise in that, was there?
No, but we've spoken about Romero before, and I think the question marks remain with Romero. We've spoken about Udogie, and it sounds like he was exposed tonight. Certainly, Werner is not somebody I would have in my starting 11 if I had a choice. So at some point, I think we've got to start talking about who we need to add to the squad in January. And I know that we have a couple of injuries that maybe would solve that problem, but Werner to me is just not a Premiership footballer. Sorry.
Adrian?
Yeah, the Werner thing with me, I didn't think he was too bad on the left, to be honest. So it's easy to get, there's always one player in the squad that ever has a go at. I mean, I've had more than enough pops at Werner, but he wasn't the reason we lost this game, let's be fair. He wasn't. He actually did some good things in the first half, the first cross, the offside goal, things like, he actually did some good things. He actually took his man on a few times down on the left. He did first half, but he wasn't outstanding. But I mean, like he wasn't the worst, was he? I mean, in the first half we were good. No one's going to criticise our interlink. Our interplay was very good. We moved the ball quickly. The little dinky 1-2s that got us up the field were all working. We missed a few of them, but they worked, and you could smell a goal coming, couldn't you? You could smell the first goal coming, even after the offside goal.
Yeah. Just say a few to the chat. The numbers are going up. Destiny 5. Costas, I think that's a reference to Werner. Evening, Destiny. Peter, good evening to you as well. Good morning. I think it will be to you by now. And Ben, well, we're going to talk about the defending. We can't. Mikey Moore left out. Was there something I've moved on too quickly? But we'll come on to the defending because we're going to talk about the first half, and we were good first half, but we have to get on to the serious stuff, which was the dross in the second. Jem, would you have played Mikey Moore first half? Would you have started with Mikey Moore?
I don't think I'd have played Moore, and it's interesting what Destiny 5 was saying about Son not being there. I think the problem goes much deeper than a particular player, and it comes back to a theme we discussed last time I was on the show, which was just generally a lack of leadership, a lack of anybody to really take control of a game and organise a team when we are under the cosh. And it happened a little bit against Karabakh. We started to be a bit headless chickens at one point, and it was clear there was nobody on the pitch who was actually taking control. That's, to me, that's the real root cause of this issue.
Good evening to our two guests from El Tel Cocorel. Buenas noches, Jose. I don't know if it's actually buenas noches at all, but I'll say good evening to you anyway. Good evening.
Good evening.
And to Soren, that lovely collection of malt whiskies behind you. Good evening.
Evening. I think I'm going to be drinking a few of these tonight.
Yeah. I poured a brandy when we went 2-2 because I thought I can't actually take this. I can't take this. But yeah, we're just talking about the starting lineup. And I watched your stream this morning, Jose, and I don't think you would have been surprised that he went with Werner and left out Moore. I think pretty well that was the side you and I and a number of others thought would be the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think the lineup don't change a winning team. And what I said on the other show this morning was that for me, I think what Moore's done is by Moore's appearance last Thursday and how he played in Europe, he's kind of closed that gap on Werner, but Werner was always going to get selected for today's game, and I understand why. So yeah, it's the 11 that I thought it would be.
Sure. I mean, Soren, the reality is that Son would be our first choice on the left side. I don't think there's any argument with that.
Yeah, I think there is. I think there is.
I'll bring you in a minute then. Okay. I'll bring you back in a minute. Odegaard, second choice. Maybe Werner stroke more third choice, with Werner going further down the pecking order. We missed Sonny today, yes or no?
Yeah, I think we did. I think a fit Sonny is going to be first choice. I'm interested to see what the other guests' argument against that's going to be. I think it won't be long before that's maybe slightly different with Mikey Moore. Once he gets his feet on the ground, probably I think he will, whether it's this year or not, will be the main first starter. But yeah, no, I think a fit Sonny would have been first choice today, definitely.
Jem, before I move on, I have put that comment up, another one of Destiny 5's that I think is absolutely worth discussing. But you think there is a debate to be had about Sonny?
I do. I don't think he's contributing enough to the team at the moment. Of course, we recognise his contribution over the years and also his capability to turn games. But actually, I'd have Odegaard there if they're both fit. Because I think he genuinely does bring something very different and exciting to the team when he's playing. I agree with Destiny 5 that somebody like Højbjerg would actually have settled that team down and would have been exactly the kind of person that you'd want to put in at that stage of the game when maybe you were 2-1 down. I think you've got to call into question Ange's judgment on when he brings on his subs. Too little, too late is a theme that seems to be emerging, and I think that Son is a bit of an enigma at the moment because he's so important commercially to the team. It's very difficult for Ange to leave him out, but purely in terms of form, I think you have to at least think very carefully about it.
Sure. Adrian, your thoughts on that? Some interesting comments. I'm going to come on to.
I'm a fan. I'm still a fan.
In a second.
I'm a fan of Son. I'm still a fan. I mean, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists this season. We've only played 7 games. He didn't play in this one, so he's only played in 6. So that's a good return. I mean, fans sometimes when they look at, you can look at Son, but then are there other areas in the forward line that we should be looking at as well? Because then you can say, well, why are we looking at Son when Werner, when a lot of fans think that Werner, although I thought he played quite well today. Seriously, I'm serious, and I'm a harsh critic of him. I thought he did some good stuff, right? And he wasn't responsible for the loss, right? But with Son, they'll activate that 1-year contract. I mean, he got 16 goals this season. He's still going to get that same amount of goals, because he's just a natural finisher with his left and right foot. If you've lost a bit of pace, if he's lost the afterburners, that from stop him from running half the length of the pitch like he did at Wembley against Chelsea, or when he got that great goal against Burnley, that's not necessarily crucial because we're not expecting even Solanke to do that. So and Solanke's fast, right? We just expect him to give defenders the slip around the area and be fed in, and he'll score goals. So I haven't got an issue with Son. I really haven't. I mean, I think there's other holes in the squad we still need to fill. And when we move on to other thing, I want to talk about passiveness at times.
I mean, I'm gonna when I talk later, I'm gonna be quite critical of Romero. You've already alluded to it, but is Son a captain?
This leader thing, you see, now back in the day, yeah. I mean, I'm an old school dinosaur, right? Then leaders could get stuck in and show things by a real brutal tackle, and things like that. But that you don't get too many tackles in a game, in a whole game now at all. Leader to do what? I've said it all along. If a player can't motivate himself when he's on that football field, he shouldn't be playing on our team anyway. So the modern leader now is more a PR man, isn't he, for the press and all that? I mean, like, what can you actually do on the pitch to change things? You know, if players aren't performing well, you can try and ask them to G up and up there. At half time, you can have words, obviously, but in the second half, what can you actually do? I mean, the manager then can change things. I'm not a believer in plan B either. I'm a believer in you bring on players that offer you something different to try and change things when they don't go wrong. But no, I mean, like, I'm still Son very in, and if he stayed next year and still stayed the following year and just was used as a squad player, that would probably see him out at Tottenham. He's not going to go anywhere, though. He's not going to be sold. He wouldn't go anywhere.
I can't imagine Dave Mackay or Danny Blanchflower wandering around the pitch. I'm going to say the same for anybody. I know Sonny wasn't out there today without some fist pumps and without some hand clapping and without, you know, shouting at a couple of players to do their jobs.
See, if without talking a second up, I said on Danny's show about a couple of seasons ago, I said, we're very good. We're flat track bullies when things go well. We go to Man United and we win 3-0. I said, we're not very good when other teams bully us, even teams not necessarily Brighton, you know, even lesser teams. They tend to crowd the midfield more and bully us, and we don't seem to know how to respond to that. If we play through them, we win and we look great, but we haven't got that. If I had one criticism of Ange in the second half, and it's easy to be a hindsight critic when you lose, it would be the fact that they scored at 2-1. I wasn't worried. We did have a little spell of the ball at 2-1, actually, 2-1 down, but then Brighton got on top. So I wouldn't have changed anything at 2-1. At 2-2, we're still in the game. Now, I thought, okay, if that was me, Ange, it's 58 minutes now, you know, it's 30 minutes. Then I'd be looking to think at least make one change. And I would have brought Basuma on and took Maddison off.
I'm going to come back to subs.
All right, go back to you.
Go through. I just want to catch up on the chat. Peter, come on in. I value your opinion. I've got no idea what that's referring to, but please let me know because I value yours too. Hoiberg, we got Destiny 5. Nita, good evening. A belated evening to you, Nita. Not mad about losing. Amber, because Ange doesn't do the sub. We will talk about the subs and the timing. Our wingers are hugging the touchline. Our fullbacks mostly are up front. Well, yeah, but that didn't cost us. So that we've done this. Evening, Jose from Destiny 5. And Paul Brown, good evening, Paul. I think some of these are those that have joined since you've come on and shared the stream, Jose. So thank you for that. So what else have we got? Who hasn't? Evening, Paul. A few people saying hello to each other as they do. Angie's clueless or stubborn or failed to defend, or we could have went 3 at the back, drag us in to close the game out. Well, there's a lot of people that think that Angie's tactically clueless, and we will talk about Ange. Werner is the reason we lost, something wrong. Yeah, I mean, I just think there's a mentality at the club that's been weak for as long as I can remember, to be honest with you. But lots of chats in. I can't bring every comment up there at the moment. Sorry, guys. But there is one thing I want to mention. Next week, tell you what, I don't know. Have we lost it? Have I lost? Did it not transfer over to this, Adrian? My interview next week. This time next week, I'm going to be interviewing the wonderful Julie Welsh, legendary journalist, authoress, and particularly writer of those glory days. A wonderful romantic view of Tottenham Hotspur. For those of you of my generation, you'll know who I am or who she is. For those of you younger, I think you'll find it an absolutely fascinating listen. But look, let's dissect that first half, because let's be honest, we were really, really good first half, Jen.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about Werner as not being the reason we lost it, but of course, I get that he's not one of the defenders who made a mistake in the second half, but equally, you can't play with 10 men. He did okay, as he's done time and time again. He did okay, but he's not a great crosser of the ball. He can't shoot for toffees. You wouldn't want to rely on him to finish anything. So, you have to look at it in the context of what could we have done in that first half with somebody better than Werner? Would we have been 4-0 up at half time? And if that's the case, would we have lost the game?
We didn't have anyone else today, though, did we, Jem? Really? We could have played Mikey Moore, but Son's injured, Odebear's injured, Yang's still playing in South Korea. Can start messing about, moving Kulusevski left and moving Johnson, keeping Johnson wider right. But I mean, let's bring the others in. Let's bring Soren in. I mean, really, seriously, what other option was there today?
I don't think there was any option, but if we're going to say, well, what if Werner wasn't playing? Well, what if Maddison had scored that goal where he brought it down and didn't even get a shot on target? What if Johnson had scored that other chance he had? What if Kulu would have dribbled through at that point? There's a lot of what ifs. I mean, the beauty of today's game is the old adage, it's a game of two halves. The first half, from what I saw, we were really good. And yeah, they had a few chances, but, we were dominating. And then I don't know what happened in the second half because I didn't really see it. So I just don't get how we can be quite dominant. And look, I mean, if it was down to substitutions and tactics in the second half, then that's fair enough. But I just don't get how we can be so dominating in one half and so piss poor in the second. It really doesn't make sense. And that to me isn't just tactics. That to me is the players switching off. It may be that the tactics weren't changed quick enough. But from what I can make out, it was defensive frailties again. But we can't blame it on Werner. I mean, from what I saw in the first half, Werner had quite a good game. So, it's baffling that we always want to blame the same players when it doesn't seem like it was his. I mean, for me, Porro was getting overrun in the first half on the left, on his side. And by all accounts, it was the same in the second half. So, we could quite easily turn around and say, well, as good as Brennan Johnson's been, where was his defending as well on that side?
Jose, I mean, I must say, I thought Porro was excellent. One of the few players that can take some credit from the performance today.
For me, there was a lot wrong today with the second half. There were some things wrong with the first half, but not as much as in the second half. I listen, I'm not going to go in on people, but I'm going to say this one thing, right? I did watch Werner today, right? And people are saying people pile on Werner. All I'm going to say, right, with Werner is he doesn't look up. He doesn't look up. He gets to that to where you got the crossing of the ball, and he doesn't look up. If anyone's watched the game today, go back to the 70th minute, right? And he's done it before that, but the biggest one in principle for me is on the 70th minute. He played a 1-2. He's got down, and instead of looking up to see what he's got in the box, he didn't even cross it. He's like passed it in, and he's passed it at an angle backwards on himself. They've picked up the ball. They've started attacking us. They're on transition straight away. Mikey Moore, what he offers you is that Mikey Moore will look up. Mikey Moore hasn't got the speed of Werner, but Mikey Moore has more of a footballing brain than Werner. He hasn't got his speed, but he's got more of a footballing brain, where Mikey Moore would not lose the ball like Werner does in the final third. Today, from what I saw, Udogie had a poor game, really poor game, and his defending for that first goal was absolutely shocking. At the end of the day, when a cross comes in, right, if you're the left back, then what you would do is you look over your shoulder. You know exactly where your player is as the ball's coming in. So then you know whether you've got time to. If you can't control it, you'll know whether you've got time to touch it and then hit it straight away, right? But he went with an air shot for it, and to be honest, the player wasn't. Minte wasn't on him. Minte was about 3 yards off him, but that air shot's fallen nicely for him. He didn't have to air shot it if he had looked over his shoulder. So there's a lot of mistakes that were made today, but for me, the players switched off in the second half. They must have done, because there's no way that they would have been sent out to play that way they did in the second half. And I think they just collectively, a few of them switched off in that second half. And unfortunately, switching off meant that Brighton got 3 goals. But with the switching off, if players have dropped their form and players aren't doing what they're meant to be doing and they're being found out, Ange needed to then make some changes. Now, you can only change what you've got on the bench, right? And so he would have known what he had on the bench. And from the errors that were being made or the people that were dropped off, I think he should have made substitutions well before the 78th minute. By the 65th minute, I think we were 3-2 down. And for me, after they scored their first goal, I could see they was going to get an equaliser. And God forbid, I never thought they was going to get a winner. I thought, okay, if they get the equaliser, then we got to do something. But the fact that we didn't do nothing until the 78th minute, and we had players that we could have just changed. Brennan Johnson, yeah, he scored the goal in the first half. Brilliant, 6 in 6, absolutely fantastic. In the second half, I didn't know where he went. I didn't see him in the second half. So therefore, if we're under the cosh, and I know the way that Ange wants to play in that, but if we're under the cosh, I would have thought that possibly Werner and Johnson could have dropped another 10, 15 yards and helped us out defensively. Stabilise the game, start playing again. But then also with that, we could have made some changes a lot earlier.
Jose, can I just ask? I mean, obviously, I didn't really see the second half, so I don't know. But was Ange telling him to come back at all, or was there any sort of thing coming from Ange, or
No.
I mean, obviously
No.
we've criticised him in the past for sort of just standing there and not really giving any information out. Now, I assume he's reliant upon his players being good enough to overturn what's happening. But if he's not telling them to come back, then I'm assuming they are under orders to stay forward, which again has to come back on Ange and his tactics.
Yeah, I mean, well, as I said, from what we saw, and I wasn't at the game, Soren, but I think from the TV, from watching it I watched it on Sky. I don't know what other platforms people watched it. I watched it on Sky, and from the footage on Sky, obviously they don't keep going to managers and that all the time, but from the times they did go to the manager, he wasn't saying nothing at all. But yeah, to me, at the end of the day, if you're on the training pitch as well, and you're coaching and you're on the training pitch and as a unit you're working together, then I'm thinking to myself, do the unit know, as a unit collectively, that when Romero steps out, you've got to cover in? Do the unit get trained that way, that Romero's going to step out, right? And if he steps out, then you tuck in, you solidify, and you come inside. So your left and right back come inside to meet Van der Ven. So you become a 3, because there's so many times today that, I mean, he probably gets away with it for Argentina doing it, because they might be coached like that, and then he's got other players around him that solidifies it. But today, on a couple of occasions, and one led to a goal, Romero has gone out to try and intercept the ball, right? So he stepped out. He stepped out from the defensive 4 to try and get the ball. Got nowhere near it. The ball's bypassed him. One pass to another, and they're in. And what we did is we kept Mickey on his own, and then there was a big gap to the left and right back because they hadn't come in when he stepped out. Now, I'm not sure whether they're coached to do this or whether Romero's just doing this on instinct, because he's trying to do something. He's trying to preempt the pass, and he's trying to get the tackle and all that. And it's all fair and well that he's doing that. But then the minute that he misses that and the ball bypasses him, then the defence looks so open because the 3 was spread right across the pitch. And they didn't sort of like tuck in. So I expect them to tuck in if they know that Romero's likely to do that. And I'm not sure that this is getting coached, because to me, it happened a couple of times today. And it's as if, we didn't tuck in. We just stayed open. But it was some. Have you seen the goals at least, sorry?
No, I haven't even seen the
Okay.
goals really.
If you see them, Soren, you'll see they weren't because they were absolutely blinding against us.
No,
They weren't
this
because
is
of
what I
that.
kind of get. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not because they were blinding against us. It's because we made silly mistakes. Absolutely, they were absolute silly mistakes that should never have happened. And I can't understand how we switched off from being dominating in this first half and being 2-0 up. How we come out and we look so different. When you said a game of two halves, it was like reading. It's like you started reading a book in the morning. You picked up in the afternoon after a break. You looked at that book and you're reading something totally different. You're on a different page reading something different, and that's exactly what happened today.
Adrian, let's bring you in. Excuse me.
Have a drink of water.
I did want to talk about Brennan Johnson because Jem said his internet's gone down, so hopefully he'll be back soon. So that's fine. 6 in 6, a different player. Hi, here he is.
I have been highly critical of Brennan Johnson in the past, but what I've seen this season out of the 6 goals before today's strike, which was a confident finish of a player who's got his confidence, 3 of those goals recently have been class finishes. I'm not clocking today, right? And I'm having second thoughts about this kid because I did wonder what Anne's seeing him all the time, picking him. This kid's obviously got something. Them finishes in the other games, excellent strikers finishes. And at Coventry, after all that stick he was taking on social media, good finish. You know, I'm glad he's proved me wrong. Porro proved me wrong as well. Right? I mean, well, it wasn't that they would prove me wrong. I was just critical of Porro's, players' performances when they don't perform for us. I ain't got a problem. I actually thought Brennan Johnson was. Jose, he was actually involved in quite a bit of the play in the first half as well. He got more. His involvement was good. Second half, because we seemed to, we didn't know whether to stick or twist at 2-1. I think that was an issue. But Johnson, look, he's got 6 goals, one more than last season. He had damn appearances, right? So, I think people can put the sticks away. Right, they're probably saving for Werner, as he's everyone's favourite whipping boy. No, I think I'm beginning to think I didn't want Johnson even before he come when I watched videos of him and all that. I thought, what's so special about this guy for this amount of money? Although the money's not his fault. But I'm changing my mind. But we'll see at the end of the season. I'll judge him like I will judge a lot of these players at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think people know I was a fan of Johnson's at Forest. I was a fan of Postecoglou at Celtic, so I'm staying loyal. But Johnson really is proving now to be a more than adept signing. Well, I'm gonna people I know want to talk about the second half collapse, but again, it all looked rosy at 37 minutes, Jem. 2-0, poor goalkeeping, mind. But Maddison scored and we're 2 up. Can you hear me?
I think he's actually frozen, isn't he?
He can't. looks like he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Okay. Okay. Soren, you can pick it up then. Oh,
yeah. Sorry, what was the question? I was looking at Jim thinking I've just.
Well, no, I'll bring in Jose then because Jose did see the game. I said, Maddison scores, he's gone again. 2-0. 2-0. Everything's rosy. Poor mistake from the goalkeeper, but hey, just actually before you go on, Jose, there's 49 of you in the chat, so please, if you haven't, hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Helps the channel enormously. So, thanks for all being here. Yeah, Jose.
Yeah. So for me, the first half, 2-0, but we should have been out of sight in the first half, and that is in all honesty. I'm not the way that Tottenham played. They carved Brighton open at will. And they, at the end of the day, they should have been out of sight. It should have been far more than 2-0. It's just night and day. You look at both the halves. I can't say anything more than that. It's night and day. What I saw in the first half and what I saw in the second half was 2 totally different things. But in the first half, we should have been out of sight. We played some really good football, some attacking football. We we impressed our game on them, so to speak. They couldn't get out. Their only outlet was, and we were nullifying a lot of their outlet. The only outlet was the whole game for them was Mitoma, and we were nullifying Mitoma in the first half. Minte weren't getting a sniff at all in the first half, so we were doing everything right in the first half, and we should have been out of sight. But then, yeah, so at half time, listen, at half time, I was not worried at all. I cooked a roast dinner, and so I served it up. I carved up all the meat and that at half time, served up the food. Half time, ate me roast, come back to watch the second half, and I thought to myself, have I just picked up the stomach bug? Because the second half was totally different. Totally different.
Yeah. And that's the way I was at work. It was like switched off at half time. We were 2-0 up and didn't see really a way back in for them. And then I kind of looked at the phone and it was 3-2 and it was like, what the hell's happened? You know, is this a mistake? What am I reading here? Is this last year's score? But yeah, it was so weird. I mean, just jumping back in, if I may, the one thing I wanted to just say about Brennan Johnson is, you know, the lad is now just showing what he can do and how good he possibly can become. But I still think the one negative side to his play is he doesn't help out defensively enough. And you see him on the wing going forward, he's getting his confidence and he's bombing forward. He's putting the goal, you know, the ball in the back of the net, which is what his job is. But I think that right-hand side just needs that little bit extra. You know, we saw Matoba coming down the wing and he was beating Porro left, right and centre, but you don't see Johnson back there defending. And that's the only criticism I still have of Brennan, that it's fantastic what he's doing going forward, but as a team where we need to defend from the front, that side is our weakness now because we don't have that player coming back to to help defend.
Jose, what I thought was interesting was with Johnson and Decky, their understanding was Decky in the first half was coming out on the right wing and it was allowing Johnson to play more through the middle. Did you notice that? And he looked like suited there.
Yeah, but in the first half, because we controlled everything in the first half, yeah, I noticed everything that was going on, but because we controlled everything in the first half, the things that happened to us in the second half didn't happen to us in the first half. So therefore, in the first half, we didn't have to have Johnson dropping 15. We didn't need Werner dropping 15 to help out. As you said, Adrian, earlier, Porro was being attacked by Mitoma non-stop, right? And you know, and when Minte was attacking a doggy side, the ball, when they got the ball, they were not only attacking them, but the ball back in to one of their midfielders was an easy one to play because we didn't have two players there, and we didn't do the defending, we didn't do the hard yards in the second half. We just felt that, do you know what? Some of the players have gone out in the second half, just thought this game's done and dusted. We've won the game already by being 2-0 up at half time. And it's just some of that stuff. I mean, do you need a manager to tell you, honestly, right? If you lot have played the game, right, do you need a manager to tell you to drop back 10 yards when you're under the cosh and your right back needs help or your left back needs help? Surely your left and right back should be able to speak to the players in front of them and say, come on, drop another 10, drop 10, and I need some help here. Let's weather the storm. But this didn't seem to happen.
Jose, what happens, though, if your manager, and this is maybe the criticism of Ange, that he plays one way, if he says stay on the front foot, don't drop 10 yards, keep pressing them and you'll score goals?
Sometimes on a football pitch, yeah, before you go on the pitch, you're quite right, and your manager will say something to you and he's got a game plan for you and you go out to play that game plan. But if you're on the pitch and you're the players and you're on the pitch and something is going on and something's going wrong, we never used to look to the sidelines to see, what's the manager want us to do about this then? Because he told us to do this, but what's he want us to do now? We didn't do that. We just played for each other and we just did it. All it took was one person. If one person had done this, right, and probably just dropped back 10 yards, okay, let's say both of them didn't do it, but one of them did it, it would have changed the outcome of the game. It's just they were all over us and they were flooding us in the second half. And it was just like the three up front, I'm not going to ask Solanke to come back, but the three up front were the three up front, and then they were running and coming at us. And the other thing I've got to say, sorry, I just got to finish on Werner, is Werner was up against Joel Veltman, right? did you see how Joel Veltman was so easy to get past? He
It's
was
only
a car.
first half.
Yeah, but he was a cart horse. He's so slow. And for me, what's his name? Werner, the first time he stood him up and went past him, I thought to myself, this guy, he's got him on toast if he wants him. And I just thought to myself, if that's what our wingers are meant to do, or our wide players are meant to do, why didn't they go at Veltman? For me, Veltman was their weak link. I mean, they took off Caglioglu, who's a right back who played left back, and they brought Estepinian on in the second half. Caglioglu hadn't had a bad game. If anything, I would have taken out Veltman at half time, but they kept Veltman on, and he was their weakness for me, and we didn't capitalise on that. We should have capitalised on him and put more down his side, and in the sense of more, attack more down his side, whether it be Werner, whether we doubled up and did Werner and someone else attacking that way. I just think we missed in the second half. We missed a trick. To me, we should have kept. For me, at half time, I couldn't see them scoring a goal in the second half. I couldn't see any other result than us winning. And it's just, it's as if the light, someone's come and switched the light off because it was night and day.
Adrian, Jose's right, isn't he? I mean, we went in at half time, and we know what Spursy is. Our generation, more than anybody, knows what Spursy is. But at 2-0, you really think we are going to win that game and win it comfortably?
Yeah, we gifted them the game. Udogie was awful, right? I don't know if he's still getting back to fun. He showed signs of getting back against, Man United. But, he was just awful. I mean, didn't finish last season in the greatest form, as it happens. But he needs to, the coaches need to, work with him, because he is a talent. He is an undoubted talent. I mean, and the second goal, I mean, these goals weren't down to the system, inverted fullbacks, or whether people like Werner or not. These were down to terrible goal errors. They were terrible. The second goal, you had Udogie trying to make a half-hearted challenge on their player, and VDV was also partly at fault of this, but most Spurs fans won't have that because they love the player, right? In the third goal, what's Bentancur doing? He should have closed that player down. And all their mistakes were in the penalty area. It weren't like they're up the pitch and we were caught on a high line and they broke on us. They were terrible goals to give away. Bentancur should have closed that player quicker. Especially he's more experienced, right? That cross should never have gone to Welbeck to get that third goal, that header. That's only my opinion. I mean, others here might differ, which is fair enough. But they were awful goals to give away. I mean, we actually gifted them the game.
I'm going to talk about Andrew's tactics later, and there are some in the chat. I mean, I'll bring up the comments in a minute that are critical of Andrew's tactics and are generally critical of. Oh, Jem's gone again. I was just about to bring him in. Okay, well, let's. He's been one of my best mates for the last nearly 50 years, but he's not helping me tonight. Let's talk about those goals. I know I can't bring you in much, Soren, because you didn't see them. But, Jose, the bottom line was these were down to individuals making poor decisions rather than poor tactics.
Yeah. The poor decision making for me, you can't. It's not just one player. I think it was the drop off. It wasn't just the mistakes. It was the drop off as well. The drop off in intensity and the drop off in the second half was from the team. I'm going to say the team. I'm not going to single out players for that. The drop off was from the whole team. However, there were individual errors that led to their goals, or there were individual errors that could have, had they not been made, would have stopped these goals from going in. But at the end of the day, you got to defend from the front. And for me, and I keep saying all the time that our two wide players didn't drop in and help out. And if they'd done that, we could have. If they're attacking us and we've got more people defending it, then we can then build and play forward, for the remainder of the game. But that just didn't happen, and that's something that I don't know. Is it the players' fault that they didn't drop back another 10 yards? Is it Ange that's told them to stay up like that? Like I said, when I played football, if our manager told us to do something, we did. We went out with his instructions. But if we saw something happening on the pitch that was affecting us, we wouldn't look over to the manager or over to the sidelines to make a decision, but we'd sort it out between ourselves on the pitch. And, you know, if that went against the grain of what the manager said and he berated us, he did so in the dressing room at half time. And then we'd say to him, you know, to our manager, with the greatest respect, this is why we did it. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's just, yeah, it was there's people were at fault. There was players that were at fault today for the goals, individual errors, but collectively, as a team in the second half, we were absolutely poor. It was night and day.
But you doggies first was the worst, right? It was the worst because the ball's coming to him. He's going to have a fresh air shot, right? But put your body in line with the ball before you try and clear it. If you miss it, the shot, the ball's going to come off your body. You can follow the momentum of the ball. But I mean, like, he didn't even do that. It was just a wild swing. I mean, it was awful.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
today...
Jem, can you... Sorry, Jose, let me come in.
Yeah, go on.
Jem, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
And you can speak. So...
I can,
right,
sorry.
It speaks.
Yeah.
You've obviously covered a fair bit since you lost your signal. I'm sure people want your opinion on individual errors in the second half, whether it's Ange's tactics to blame. I mean, I just think they came out too complacent and didn't step it up. I think, you know, surely the manager's saying at half time, you know they're going to come at you. They know they're going to put it in. You've got to stay really strong for the first 15 minutes, hold the ball, win your tackles, win your personal battles, and you will win the game. And we saw none of that.
I think there's three key people in this. And one of them is Udogie, who personally I don't think he's a defender. I don't think he has the spatial awareness for it. I think he has the potential.
Oh. Lost him again.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
I've just been literally watching the goals, so I can make a quick comment if I'm allowed.
Yeah, please, Soren.
The one thing I've noticed from what I've just seen, and obviously it's only the highlighted clips of them, but Udogie is certainly in all three circumstances could have been a bit stronger himself. And I've said this several times about Van der Ven, and he is an absolute phenomenal defender before anybody thinks I'm having a go at him, but he is not as strong when he is in his own box having to defend in a tight area. And the first goal, by the look of it, you know, obviously he just didn't get to the ball. The second one, as much as he looks like he's at fault, I also think Udogie is more at fault because he was so soft in that, you know, he could have easily tackled him. And then the third goal, again, Udogie on the edge of his box, was very weak. And again, I'm not really digging out Udogie because he's been brilliant going forward, but both of our left back and right back, wing backs, whatever you want to call them, they are not strong at defending. They're great going forward, but they are not as strong at defending. And from what I've just seen, all three goals stem from them coming down the wings. So, you know, this is where we're saying, or what I was saying earlier, that your attackers, so your Brennan Johnson and your Werner, I don't know if Werner was still on at that point, I presume he was, they've got to get back and help do that defending as well. And, you know, if we're defending from the front, in theory, those goals probably wouldn't have happened. And, you know, we see the individual errors. To me, it's not just necessarily errors. It's just that the players aren't been strong enough. That they're not getting in there and doing the tackling. That they're too afraid to actually commit to doing a tackle. That's what I think. You know, that worries me these days. That we're just too flimsy. It's the same things that we get beat because we're too soft.
Yeah, I mean, passive is what I said last season. I said when last season our midfield and our front three were pants, right? This season our midfield's been a lot better, But today it's passive again, and other players at the back, like you're suggesting, are passive. They're not aggressive enough. They're reactive, not proactive. They seem to be frightened to make the tackle. I mean, your doggy was probably frightened to make that tackle for the second goal, right? And VDV, I thought, should have come over tighter anyway, and he should have been aware of it, right, as well. And it's like in the midfield, if you're gonna at 2-1, I wouldn't blame Ange for not changing anything. You're winning the game. Why change things? At 2-2, okay, that's given me food for thought. But that was 58, 59 minutes. Then I would have changed something, but that's being a clever hindsight critic, right? Because then if you're going to change something, you want to stiffen up the midfield, you either bring Basuma or Sarr on. Last season, we see it was Højbjerg or Skip. So you either bring Basuma or Sarr on to stiffen it up. And if you want to progress up the field, you bring Basuma on first, right? And then you would then probably have to take Maddison off because he didn't have the greatest game, right? So that's the way I would have gone, but I don't know what's in Ange's head. I mean, I've seen in a lot of there's a lot of fans.
Adrian, I'm gonna some comments in the chat. I need to come in. So I don't know. It's just Jose's alerted it to me that Ian's dropped Mark from the show. Well, Mark, to the best of my knowledge, was never scheduled to be on the show tonight. I tend to work with quite small numbers. But if Mark is about, Adrian, will you send Mark the link?
Sure.
Because I've got absolutely... Can you do that while I'm hosting?
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it.
I mean, Mark was never scheduled. I did hear Mark say something this morning about, I've only caught a bit of it, about being on the show tonight. Mark was. I tend to work with small numbers. It's just the way I prefer to work. I prefer to work with 4, 5, 6 absolute maximum, because I just think then everybody gets a say and we can move the thing on. We've got 65 in the chat as well. Absolutely, I know Mark has different views to me, but this isn't just a show where people have to agree with each other. We need some healthy debate. It's why our numbers are really good on.
Right, I've sent him the link. Mark, you've got the link if you're listening.
If someone's in touch with Mark, or if Mark is watching, he hasn't commented. I'm trying to host, but I can message Mark and say if he can come on. I've got no problem, particularly as Jem is having problems with his signal. So we're actually down to 4. So another guest is actually more than good. So I'll message Mark. Adrian, carry on. You just sort of take over for a bit while I message Mark.
Right, let's have a look at the banners. Where are we?
I mean, what gets me, Adrian, with that is that, we're talking about our midfield and that. We were so solid in the first half. I mean, it just doesn't quite make sense that, yes, the other team obviously changed tactics, I assume, and did something different. I mean, I don't know if they brought subs on at halftime or what, but, it's still no excuse for our midfield to have crumbled, or the team as a whole to have crumbled like they seem to have done.
Yeah, and we've seen this before, though. We've seen this last season. This is what I'm saying. When suddenly we get passive. I think at 2-1, the players had been comfortable at 2-0 and they didn't know whether to stick or twist. And we lost cohesion, right? After they got to 2-1, we did have a bit of the ball, actually. But then we went backwards again and they come up. But at 2-2 on the 58th minute, when Rata scored, that was when I would have changed something. I would have brought Basuma on and all that. I don't blame the manager, though. It wasn't he's got his game plan. That's laid out, right? The team know. We see what the game plan was first half, the way they played. We just crumbled second half. And we've seen this before. So at first sight of us crumbling, then I would expect the manager to do something to try and change things, right? So I get, I think there's justified criticism on the late substitutions. But when he gets it right, 3-0 away from Man United, no one complains. But I mean, I would criticise the substitutions today being too late.
The question is, though, Adrian, and the rest of the panel, do we think something was changed in the dressing room at half-time and then that's why we came out and didn't play as well? I mean, do you think Ange did change some sort of tactics at half-time and say, do something different, and that hasn't worked? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've just watched the highlights, so it doesn't show you the rest of the game.
Well, what would you actually change? You're 2-0 up.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to ask the
unless
question.
You say, let's sit back and defend the lead. That's the only thing you could really say. Let's play a bit deeper now because we're 2-0 up and hit them on the break. You could say that, but we played so well first half. What would you do? What would you do, Jose?
I think what it is when you come out in the second half and there was a lethargy about us. There was a lethargy about the team in the second half. The second half, they came out firing and there was a lethargy from us. And a lot of players went off the ball in the second half. And when they scored their goal to go 2-1, straight away then you should have thought to yourself, hold on, we might need to change something. Remember, they're at home as well. We might need to change something here because they scored after 2 minutes, right, in the second half, in the first couple of minutes. But after that, they didn't score again to the 58th minute. They scored 10 minutes later. But during them 10 minutes, even before they scored that second goal, it was all them. We dropped off the pace. We were lethargic. And that's when the tactical change should have happened, or when the players should have said to each other, let's drop them 10 yards. And this is what I was saying about the wide players not dropping and tucking in to help out, to stop. If you stop, the momentum was with Brighton. Bring the players back, stop that momentum, and then build up again. And then you reassess again. You got to drop the players back in and then reassess. But we failed to do that. And it's not only the manager didn't make changes till too late, but as players on a pitch, surely they must have known they were being overrun. They must have known themselves, and that's where I think that they should have talked to each other and done something about it. I just think it was lethargy. I don't think they were told to do anything different because we were 2-0 up. I just think they came out and lethargic.
Okay, guys, let me having got Mark on.
I ain't said nothing yet.
Otherwise, he's better off buggering off to the chat, and I'll put his comments up. Mark, good evening to you.
How are we?
What's your take?
Now, right. In my mind, this is all on Ange. The defeat today. Right? In the first 10 minutes of that second half, we were overrun, and he did absolutely nothing. All he had to do was make some substitutions, get some fresh legs on. You could see we were tired, we were lethargic. Bring the substitutes on. I'd have brought them on after the first goal. But no, all his substitutes are always 70 minutes plus. Mate, he could see we were being overrun. I could see it watching the TV. He should have got the subs on. But the defeat today is all on Ange. And again, what I've been moaning about on here for weeks on end, weeks and weeks on end, the fullbacks inverting, how open we look.
But we were saying that there was nothing. We were saying before you came on. I don't know if you were in the chat at that point.
I was.
I mean, playing devil's advocate, the goals where the ball goes over the top, the fullbacks are nowhere to be seen. The goals we've been conceding, there was no indication of that today. These were the fullbacks. Neither of the fullbacks were inverted at the points that we scored. In fact, the fullback of Udogie was on, inside his own 6-yard box when he I mean, I think we could talk about your inverted fullbacks so the cows come home, and I know Ben's been on and earlier, I don't think he's still here, but complaining about inverted fullbacks, which is fair enough, but there was nothing in those goals that to the general high line inverted fullbacks being caught too easily, losing the ball over the top, bang, goal. None of the goals were like that at all.
No, they weren't today, but they were doing it. They were still doing it, but the thing is with that system, they got to get back so quickly when we do lose the ball that we sometimes don't get caught out. I mean, the first goal today, when Udogie tried to clear it, Sky didn't show much of a replay of it, but I'm sure it got a touch on the way through, and he couldn't sort his feet out. And he just.
I don't think it did. From what I've just watched
Well,
it. I think the Van der Ven going for it probably put Udogie off. Maybe.
Yeah, or it was that then. Yeah. It was that put him off. But you know,
it affected his game though, Mark, because
From the start of the second half though, they were just all over us. I mean, Ange surely must have seen it, and why not bring like Basuma and Sarr on then? You know, I mean, we could all see it was coming because as soon as they scored the first, I could see. I thought, and then when we kicked off and they got the ball back, they were just all. I mean, surely he's got to see that our players are running out of gas. Surely he's got to see that. I mean, I blame the defeat on him.
They should have been fresh, Mark. They were rested for the last game. I thought Udogie was a lot of fault because his positional play was awful. I think he was trying to make up for his earlier error. He went galloping forward. All right, fair enough. You're supposed to get overloads and 2v1s with Werner on the left. But the times, like you rightly said, him getting back, he could have been even in a better position for the second goal. He could have been back further, you know. But like we're picking the bones here, but I don't blame Ange for it. You've got players out there, you're winning 2-0 and you make 3 schoolboy errors in front of, like, to gift 3 goals. I mean, there's nothing a manager can do about that. If you're going to give away sloppy goals like that, there's nothing a manager can do. I go with the criticism on the substitutes, though. You know?
Yeah.
I think where you're looking at it, it's too easy to say we can't blame Ange. We've got to put some emphasis on Ange because he's the only one that can really change it. So, you know, I mean, again, I can only go on the highlights. So you're 2-1 down, or you're winning 2-1. I get they're not making substitutes. Gets to 2-2, and you think, you know what? I've got to, you know, you've got to start looking at that point. Yeah. Once you're 3-2 down,
it's too late by then.
Substitutions. Well,
it's too late.
It's not so much it's too late, but I don't know if this is when it was done. But that's the point. No later than that. I mean, I don't know if we played any longer than going 3-2 down before we made subs, but you've got to be, once it's 2-2, you have got to be preparing them substitutes to come on.
Yeah, and the thing that annoys me as well is there's no change of system throughout the whole game. You know, it's like the comments earlier about when we were 2-0 up, put 5 at the back for the second half. You know,
during the game, in fairness, I see us have 3 at the back. We even had a 5-4-1 at one time, which people won't want to remember for their own reasons. But we didn't. We was always, even if we pushed up, overloaded them, we still had 4 at the back. 4 or 3 we had there.
But no. But when I say go 3 at the back, I'm on about a back 5, basically, with the wing backs. Because, I mean, how many teams? I bet this don't happen too often when a team is 2-0 up and they end up losing.
Tottenham do it regularly.
Well, yeah, obviously us.
When you see tactical changes, like you said, Mark, the only time you really see it is like if someone's playing a back 5, it's not quite working. So then they switch it to a 4 at the back. That's the only, you don't really see that much change in midfield. You can change a striker up front and all that. You don't really see this plan B. I mean, to me, I think it's for the birds because it doesn't exist. You can bring fresh legs on. I mean, what's plan A and what's plan B? If fans want to go on about plan A and plan B, tell me what your plan A and what your plan B would be, and they can't tell you because they don't know. You know, I mean, you can.
Let's bring Jose in. Hasn't spoken for a bit. Just on that point. I mean, when I watch Arsenal, I watch Manchester City, Man United. I don't see them having very often anyway. Well, we're now going to 3-4-3, or we're going whatever. It's generally changing the personnel within the same system. You just
people
put something in your mouth.
Yeah,
Come
people
on,
make.
no. Hey,
people make changes.
You have to talk. You haven't talked for 10 minutes, so you have to talk now.
I am talking. People make changes. People make changes on whether it has to be what you've got on the pitch or whether you make substitutions. People make changes. Now, as I said, I don't know how I can rinse and repeat the same thing, but when they got to 2-1, we came out lethargic. They got 2-1. When they scored their first goal, from then on in, let's not get it twisted, it was all Brighton. So at what stage do you, even when we're saying I said already, drop the wide players, drop them in 10 yards to help defend, right? And what you do is you solidify your position, you calm the game back down, and then you build from there. If you then need to make changes or whatever you need to do, you do it. But the fact that we didn't just do the simple thing of dropping our players 10 yards, because we were under the cosh. And then, and we didn't drop our players 10 yards. And I've said how many times I need to say it. All we need to do is the players could have done that themselves just by discussing it on the pitch. Shit, this ain't going right. We need to do something about it. And having a chat to each other. You don't have to, like I keep saying, I didn't have to listen to my manager on the sidelines and anybody else to tell me that we were doing something or we had to get something right on the pitch. That's what we had the players for. Sometimes some people will say your manager's on the touchline, but you have a manager on the pitch, and your manager on the pitch is usually your captain. So if something's going on, one of your leadership or your captain on the pitch would be saying, right, you need to come back here. We're getting overrun this side. You need to come back and do this. You need to come back and do that. But the fact is that none of that happened. Not that I saw. I didn't see Romero was our captain today. And in all honesty, for whatever Romero is and isn't, Romero, I wasn't seeing berating players and pulling players up and stuff like that. And then also as well, if you're leading from the front and you're one of the causes of the errors that are being made, then who's going to look up to you, to be honest as well? Because as I kept saying, he kept stepping out. Now, whether he's trying to be clever and smart and he's trying to anticipate something, that's fine. But it's the people behind him that are not prepared for that. Because if they were prepared for that and they worked on this in training, then they would have solidified. So the right and left would have come in to where Van der Ven was. Van der Ven was left on his own. Our right back is over that end. Our left back is over that end. And there's big spaces in between the one centre-half and the two fullbacks.
Yeah.
And then Romero's out of position. So, it's something that could have been rectified on the pitch. It didn't need the manager to tell them. But, in saying that, it was clear. I mean, Soren didn't get to see the game, but the rest of you did. You all know what I'm talking about. You watched the game. It was clear that we were lethargic when we came out in the second half, and they were all over us for the whole second half. We never got out. We didn't get out.
Well, they were all over us. Look, they were all over us until they went 3-2 up. Then they just sat back, like any team does. They played that low block again, which proves that they changed. I mean, why we couldn't do that when we were 2-0 up? Just let them have the ball. And stick 10 behind the ball. I know that's not Ange's style, but it would have got us 3 points.
I mean, the one thing I'm noticing. Sorry.
Yeah, let me kind. I mean, my criticism was, you can understand bad goal to lose straight after half time. Fine, you just get on with it. But it was pretty clear. It was clear to me anyway. 5 minutes after that, until they scored again another sort of 7 minutes later, that we were under the cosh and something needed to change. Now, I'm an Ange fan. People in the chat will know that I'm an Ange fan. But actually, I thought he was really poor today. I can't defend the fact that when players are clear... I mean, remember, Udogie's been injured. He makes that awful error. I don't think he played well at all. No. Why did he not bring Spence on, who's got a hell of an engine on him? You can see Maddison, Bentancur getting overrun in midfield, and you've got Sarr and Bissouma. He often does that at Celtic. I see him do that often. He's changing his two midfield players because that's the engine. That's where it's expected to work. The other point I want to make that you guys have said is that going back, and I'm going to be talking to Julie next week, who was who trained under Danny Blanchflower, that it was often said that Bill Nicholson didn't need to do anything on the pitch because Bill Nicholson had Danny Blanchflower, who knew exactly what needed to be done, and Danny Blanchflower made those changes. You look at Roy Keane and Alec Ferguson, I know they fell out, but Roy Keane knew exactly what was required on the football field. The manager didn't need to be yelling. He would really yell at the referees. Didn't need to be yelling at the players. And something wasn't right today. Something wasn't right. Whether it's an instruction to drop 10 or whatever. I personally think he was far too late in changing it up. And I'm not normally critical of him, but I thought he had a howler today. And I thought he had an absolute howler. And as I say,
one thing I'm kind of
noticing, I'm a fan.
The one thing I'm kind of noticing from watching the game while you lot are talking is what happened to Bentancur in the second half. He seems to have gone missing as well. He's meant to be our sort of number 6 player, and you just see him flapping his arms about each time there's a goal gone in, as though he's not at fault. Well, he's not doing his job neither, by the look of it. I mean, he looked all right in the first half. Second half, from what I'm seeing, he's missing.
I agree, and I've said it before 2 seasons going in Danny's chat about us being too passive, and when we look like that in games, don't get me wrong, when it works, yes, go with the way we go against Man United, go with the midfield 3 you got, but like when you smell the danger, then you change things. I wouldn't have panicked at 2-1, but at 2-1, 2-2, it's 58 minutes. That's half hour to turn things around, right? So. And that can make a difference in, and I think it was crying out for Basuma and taking Maddison off. That would have been the first change I'd have made. But, I'm not a football manager. It's just like what I'm seeing. Now, I mean, the players also have to take, so if it's hurting them, good, because you did this today and you doggy let the side down badly, right? But others were to blame as well. And they'll all come out and say, oh, it's collective responsibility. All right. Blame the manager for not making the substitutions. The game plan was good enough for the first half. Why didn't the players do it second half? Why didn't they do it second half? Right? So,
well, to be honest, Brighton made at least one substitute half time. They brought that, terrorised us for about 10, 15 minutes. I can't remember his name.
The only substitution they made at half time was Estepinian came on for Caglioglu at left back. That's the only substitution they made at half time.
But who was the guy that was terrorising us then? Because
that was Mitoma. He played the whole game.
Yeah, that Mitoma. Jesus Christ.
He was on the first half as well.
Yeah.
Minte was good. Minte was good for them. I mean, like.
Well, that's the one I was on about.
He played the whole game as well.
That Mitoma's the Japanese lad, isn't it?
No, Mitoma's the Japanese lad. He's the one.
That It was one on the other side. Well, both of their players on either side.
But like I said earlier, right, we were lethargic coming out in the second half. They scored within 2 minutes, all right? For me, though, the second goal could have been averted because there was a 10-minute There was 10 minutes between the first and second goal. They were overrunning us from the first goal onwards anyway.
Yeah.
And had we made the changes, dropped the 10 deep and stuff like that, had we done that then, right, you neutralise the game, bring it back down again, neutralise the game. And we failed to do that, and they got the second goal.
Yeah.
And we continued to fail and do that, and they got their third goal. By the time you then make your changes afterwards, the third goal's already been scored. So what I'm saying is that we should have done the things that we need to do. The players needed to do. Have a chat with each other, wobble their heads together and say, we've got to drop 10 here. We're being overrun. Let's wrestle the game back. And had we done that, the second goal may not have happened. But it is, again, all if, buts and maybes. So, because the game's now finished, and it's easy for us to say this after the game's finished. But it should have happened at the time.
I think the way you've got to look at today is that it's not any one single place to put the blame. You've got to put the blame with Ange for not making the substitutions at the right time and changing the game that way. You've also got to look at the players. They've obviously just given up and tapped back or not done their jobs the way they were doing in the first half. So you've got to say, the individual mistakes from virtually the whole team, because from what I'm seeing, you wouldn't pick any of our players up in the second half and say they had a decent half. No. Whereas the first half, we were controlling the game.
I mean, when we were playing in the first half, I mean, if you didn't think we were playing really well, and looked a top quality side. And I don't think you were actually watching.
Yes, exactly.
And then in the second half, if you actually thought we were a team that was capable of finishing in the top half, you weren't watching the game. And it's like, that can't happen. That just can't happen. Before we go on, there's been in excess of 70 in the chat. Please, if you haven't, will you hit the like button? It means a lot to us, and the subscribe channel. And I know Jose won't be on, whether you're on Diehards or El Tel Cockerel. Can you please tune in next week? I've got an interview with the Spurs famous journalist, authoress and screenwriter Julie Welsh, talking about her history as a young girl growing up, watching the double team and writing fabulous plays and books about it. So it's International Week. So with a bit of luck, excuse me, we'll have a really good chat with Julie, and I think it might be really interesting. Good evening, Brian. Who's going to argue with that comment? Nobody. So,
what we've all been saying.
There's so many chats coming in, comments coming in on the chat. I've lost them. So they've got it. Somebody says that the chairman was at the NFL today. Was there an NFL game at Tottenham or?
Yeah, it's still going on, I think.
Without being funny, what difference does that make?
They go on for 3 days.
Right. Okay. Well, there's more money in the coffers then, I suppose. But what does it matter if you don't invest in the team?
But I mean, without being funny there, Ian, though, what difference does it make if he's at the match or not? Not all CEOs and owners are at every match, so
it doesn't. It doesn't.
He's not going to change the team. You know, it's not his tactics, so I don't get that argument at all. That's just bringing it in for the sake of it.
Comment from Destiny 5 has always got interesting things to say. And this is Ange, and I've this is something I probably agree with, that there are times when if you bring on Dragusin, you can free up your fullbacks, and if you've got 5-3-2 or 3-5-2 when you're in possession of the ball, you're going to be a lot more solid than we are when we just play this sort of gung ho. Who should we bring in here, Mark? You have a comment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just.
I know you were.
No. I've just put our channel in Jose's chat. I've just put our channel in Jose's chat, and I was going to put Jose's channel in our chat.
Yeah. But, okay. That's too much. That's too technical for me.
Well, I can only do it on my phone, mine. But what was the question? Sorry.
I said. I said that. Destiny 5's comment is something I've often felt myself, that at times if you bring, say, Dragusin in, you've got your three and your fullbacks. If your fullbacks go forward, you've got 3-5, or when you're defending, you've got 5-3. You're going to be a lot more solid.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
And he never does that.
No. But that's one of the first. That's one of the first comments I made when I come on here. At 2-1. I'd have brought Dragusin on, done exactly what he said. 5, whatever it was, 5-3-2, whatever it was. I'd have done exactly that because they overrun us before they scored.
Yeah.
So that's the gripe I've got with Ange. Yes, do I want him to be successful? Of course I do. I want everyone at Tottenham to be successful. I want us to win the quad. I want us to win everything. But I will only moan and groan when I see things that I think is wrong. I've been moaning and groaning for weeks and weeks and weeks on this channel about Ange. He doesn't adapt. He doesn't do this. And this is another example of it.
I think
you never see his systems change in game.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're a manager and you've got a football philosophy, and we know certain managers play a certain style, you stick with it, or you die on the hill sticking with it. And the reason you do it, because if you'd have changed to a 5-3-2 and we'd lost, what would the fan base be saying?
Yeah. I mean,
It's the same thing. I mean, like I get tweaks, freshen things up. I agreed. I would have waited till 2-2, half hour ago, made the subs. I agree with all the critique about the late subs. I agree with that, but I wouldn't have done it till 2-2. I'm not panicking at 2-1, right? So what? 3 minutes into the game, 2-1. You're making substitutions. You might as well have made them at half time. You know,
The top managers, though, Adrian, they do adapt in game. Because you quite often see Pep and that changing his system. And
so many adaptations this season, though, Mark. I went through all the earlier games when he changed the front three a few times. When Basuma went out,
I'm not on about substitutions. I'm just on like moving the players around. You know, getting them to sit a bit deeper when they know they're under the.
Well, as Jose said, that's down to the players to drop back. They've got to have some sort of footballing IQ on the field. That's down to them.
Yeah, but with that, Adrian.
No, because we do, don't we? When we drop back to defend corners and drop back to set pieces, we do. And sometimes when teams are attacking us, we do drop back. We don't stay on a halfway line for 90 miness. I get that. No, but Andy's not going to change his system.
No, but without being funny to that, if they score a goal and it's 2-1, the first thing in theory that a good manager should say is just calm it down. Shore it up. Yeah. Let's not concede another one straight away. Now, all he has to do is say to Udogie and to Porro, just sit back a little bit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let's just shore everything up and get Bentancur sat back a little bit more and just leave them 5 more defensively and put the rest up front. Now, from what I've just been watching, that We've gone 2-1 down, and I know the philosophy of our team is still to attack to get that next goal, and I get that. But sometimes you've got to, and look, let's not beat about the bush. It didn't just happen under Ange. We saw it under Conte, we saw it under Jose, we saw it under Poch. We've seen it for a long, long time that we don't necessarily just tighten up when we've gone. We've lost a goal. And even at 2-1, I get that there's no panic that you need to make substitutions or change to a back three or something like that. But you've still got to just say to everybody, calm down, sit back a little bit, and then push forward. Once we've got to get back in control, because everybody knows if you're 2-0 down and you score a goal, all you're going to try and do then is score another goal as quick as you possibly can.
But all our problems came through Udogie down on the left. When Udogie
missed
when Udogie missed
because the first goal came down. No, hang on. The first goal came down the right.
Come in, right? Udogie should have cleared it, right? Then right, he fluffs his lines, right? He should have got his body in the way at least, so if he's going to take the ball and then take the ball. If not, it bounces off.
I think he was put off by someone diving in front of him.
And then the 2 other goals, when Udogie's a bit slow making a challenge and VDV's came in from the left. And the last one, when I don't know if it's Minter got to the byline and Bentancur was slow to get to the byline, that came in from the left as well. And Udogie, I think after the first mistake, I think he tried to make up for his mistake, getting forward and all that, leaving space behind him. And he just went from bad to worse, basically.
Yeah, but Adrian, if you watch the first goal, Porro was as weak as hell. The player went past him like he wasn't even bothered. And so if Porro was defending properly, that ball wouldn't have come in. Van der Ven wouldn't have then missed it for Udogie to make the mistake with the clearance. So as much as we can go to say Udogie was in the wrong for the clearance, we've got to go strip it right back and say Porro was beaten very, very easily.
Well, I mean, then you could go where in the phase do you want to apportion blame? Because that goal was stoppable. That's the point. It shouldn't have happened.
The cross should have been stopped before it even got crossed, because literally Porro was. You could see it. This like second where the ball comes down and Porro's like looking around before he goes with his player. That's where the mistake. That's where the first mistake is.
Fine, but where in a phase of play do you want to blame something? I remember like Jose wanted to blame Kelly Ali because he lost the ball on the opponent's penalty area, and they got down their end of the field and scored a goal. I mean, so like, well, yeah. I mean, I still think your dog is to blame for that goal.
No, I mean, once the ball's come across, then yeah, I get that. That could have been cleared properly. It was a miss kick and it was a bad miss kick. But my point is that it could have very easily have been stopped well before there with our, with Porro. Now, look, we've all sat here and given all these players credit when we're playing well and all this. Like first half, if we'd have been sat here talking about the game after the first half, we'd have all been buzzing about it and saying how great the players were. The problem is the first mistake is made by Porro. And, we can say, well, it could have been stopped before there, but that was the first mistake. If that, I mean, let's go back to if that had been Gray, everybody would have been on his back. Everybody would have been slating Gray if he'd have been in that position and letting the player go past him like that. But Porro, again, we don't talk because he's been so great for us. We don't want to slate him, but that's where the first mistake is Pedro Porro.
We're such a young team, though. A lot of these players are still developing. I mean, you go back to the Frank Varus goal. You had an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, and a 22-year-old had a hand in the first goal. I mean, I think, if Arsenal ain't putting out their youngest 11, I think we're the youngest team in the league. So we probably could do with a bit more experience in the team. Yeah,
I agree with that. I mean, but then, we look at it and we say, I mean, Porro's probably one of our more experienced players anyway. Udogie on the other side, one of our, obviously today, one of our least experienced players, our youngest on the pitch.
And they will make mistakes. They will make mistakes.
I mean, they all make mistakes. The problem, I mean, we could look at it another way and say, right, 3 goals, 3 mistakes. Maybe next match we don't make a single mistake. The problem is it's come in a game. I mean, let's not forget, before the game kicked off, we were all sat there saying it's going to be a high-scoring game. There's going to be 4-3, 3-1. I think Mark said 8-6 or 9-6 at one point. And
yeah, it was 8-6, I said.
Yeah. Obviously the only problem was we got it the wrong way around. It was 3-2 to them. So we always knew there were going to be goals in today. It just depended which team scored the most. Unfortunately, it wasn't us.
Look, at the end of the day, right, in all honesty, right, we've been on a 5-game unbeaten run and it's been absolutely fantastic, all right? And you're gonna have games that you'll end up losing. And when it happens, it's gutting. Today is gutting. It's gutting, but as well, being at 2-0 up at half time, where we were in such a strong position at half time that the loss becomes even harder.
Worse.
Right? Even harder for us. But by the same token, if we're going to buoy up our team when we win, then we've got to critique it when we lose. And we've got to be fair by our critique. So at the end of the day, and I'm saying this to some people in the chat, to understand, look, it's brilliant when we win because we're all riding on the crest of the wave. But when we lose games, we have to critique the games that we've lost. Now, if that's what we're here to do. We're here to critique it on these shows. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that we're Ange in, Ange out, VDV in, VDV out, Levy in, Levy out. When we're not.
Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute.
It's none of this. It's none of this. All we're doing is critiquing a match that happened today, a match that we should have won, and we're just critiquing it. Like I said, so people need to understand the same as when we win games, we'll all go and we'll all say how good we were, and even when we won, even when we beat Man United on some of the channels or some that I was on, we were turning around and we were saying on some of the, or I said on my thing that we beat Man United, but in that game. There's a couple of chances that Werner, if you'd taken one of them, then there would have been zero. There would have been zero critiquing. It would have been absolutely fantastic result. Move on to the next one. So we critique as well when we win, but we got to critique when we lose. And I just want to make sure the chat do understand that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I completely agree with you. Like, it's like I know I've been on here a lot with Adrian and that, and I'm always moaning and like all this, but it's only because I want us to win. If they win every game, I wouldn't moan.
We're not going to win every game.
Well, no, I understand that. But when we do lose, especially today, when you're 2-0 up at half time, and in my mind, the loss today was more than avoidable. You know, it's the way the way that we just seem to be overrun.
It's a reality check for the players, Mike. I hope they learn by it, especially the younger players.
You know me, Mark. I'm as positive as the next man. There's a few, but not many more positive than I am, and I'm struggling for positives today. I really am to see that, to see the way that the team collapsed second half.
Yeah.
The lack of urgency, the lack of.
The only thing I disagree with Jose on is when he said Levy in or Levy out. That's no debate.
Well, it's certainly not tonight. I'm going to put a question up for us to conclude. Again, we've had up to 80. I think we've got 29 likes. Please like, please subscribe, and set an alert for the channel. So
sub to this person at the bottom.
Our numbers are building, and hopefully we're building because we're having.
Sub to this person here on screen now. It says
put it up for you, Jose.
Yeah,
I'll put it up for you.
They may not know who he is, but sub to him. He's a good guy. He's a good
I put
guy.
it in there 3 times for you, Jose. 3 times I put it in for you.
Yeah, but it was never brought up on the screen.
Well, Sava's here as well, by the looks of things.
You checked in the post, Mark.
Yes.
I mean, there's David's comment. I mean, that's I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, surely as a coach, you're saying you're 2 up. 2 up is nothing. If you lose 1 goal, you're suddenly struggling. So you don't lose that first goal. I watched Celtic today. They were a goal down to little old Ross County. My neighbour was up, and I said, "Do you know what? If Celtic get 1, they will get 2. The problem is getting the first goal. The second goal is always easier." And today, watching Tottenham, it was exactly the same. If you don't give away the first goal, you can't give away the second or third. And we didn't come out hungry. We didn't come out strong. They're going to come at you. They're going to come out energized. And we had nothing. And it was, to be honest with you, I'm so disappointed.
When we aren't flat track bullies, when it doesn't work for us, we don't have the aggression. We don't have the bite. We're too passive. To stop being overrun. We're too passive. That's what it boils down to. I've been saying it for 2 seasons. Our players are too passive. How many aggressive players have we actually got in the squad? 25. How many aggressive players have we got? We would put Højbjerg or Skip on when things were going. That's what we were reduced to, Højbjerg or Skip, to try and shore things up. Now, if he's not starting Basuma, you're looking at Basuma and Sarr to come on and do that.
Yeah.
My critique would be against Dan's, the late substitutions. I wouldn't have panicked at 2-1, not 3 minutes into the second half. But 2-2, 58 minutes, half hour to go, he should have made substitutions then, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But we shouldn't. But the thing is, though, we were overrun when they scored their first goal, Adrian. They didn't need to get their second goal because that was a 10-minute. In that 10-minute gap, they were still overrunning us. The fact is,
we still had a bit of the ball. Then they got us on the break, but we still had a bit of ball in that period.
The players themselves, if they've got right, listen, these players have got IQ, man. They're footballers at the end of the day. They must have IQ. And if they get together on a football pitch and they think to themselves, we're being overrun here, blah, blah, blah. And someone gets the players by the scruff and says, look, you got to drop another 10. We got to stabilise this game. You drop another 10. If we had done that, and I keep repeating it, had we done that after the first goal went in, for the next 10 minutes, they were overrunning us. Even 5 minutes later, just make that change on the pitch. If it comes from the players, it comes from them.
That is baffling, Jose.
And then hopefully the second goal doesn't go in. But the second goal went in. And then we still didn't do it. And then the third goal went in.
Yeah, but what you've got to look at with this is that when we're now playing a midfield with 2 very attacking players in there in Kulu and Maddison. And now we are really screaming out for a proper number 6 that is going to help the defence out more because somebody needs to be sat back. And Benson Kerr, who's been quite good, he's had some good games recently. That second half, from what I'm just watching, he was absolutely piss poor and always out of position. He wasn't playing the kind of holding position that he's meant to be playing, he was just flapping his arms about.
And doesn't use a 6-0 apparently.
Well, I know
this
he
is
doesn't,
another critique I've got of him.
No, but if you look at the last few games, now he's playing Kulu and Maddison in that midfield. Benson Kerr has played more of a number 6 role than anything. He's still gone forward, I get that, but he's kind of the one that we're relying on to be that holding player. And he was nowhere to be seen. He's nowhere to be seen. Well, that, you know, he's the one. The second goal, I think it's the second one, comes from our right, played into the middle, straight through. But Benson Kerr's just stood there waving his arms around.
And the third one, if you watch the third goal, he puts a terrible challenge in to try and stop whoever it was that stuck it on Welbeck's head. He just would not been there.
Exactly. You know, I mean,
he should have been quicker.
You know, we're going to play these two sort of more very attacking type players in Kulu and Maddison in the midfield. This is now where we've got to go back and say, well, we've got to have that proper number 6 now. Obviously, the argument is, well, that's why we've kind of long term we've bought Archie Gray for it. Well, I'm not saying bring Archie Gray on today, but Benson Kerr in the second half was not playing the position he was meant to be. Now, is that why all of a sudden we start to get overrun because players are not performing in the positions they're meant to be?
Well, I think in that situation, you can't rely on Maddison to come back and help you out. Kulu,
exactly.
As Jose was alluding to, I mean, like,
he's not that sort of player, is he?
No, Kulu should have dropped back. Kulu should have dropped back because it's fine when it works for Bentancur, but if he's got overloaded around him, if two against are going to overload him, they'll play around him. They'll play around him. I mean, he's been good. I mean, I love him as a footballer.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot to like about a lot of the footballers in this squad, but football's not always going to go the way you want it to go, and when you've got to be able to change things with substitutes. Now, and I think Ange got it wrong today. He should have made subs on that when a second goal went in.
Yeah.
You know.
Right, I put up the question because I think we've probably exhausted most of this. Where do we go now? There's some comments in the chat about players, about leadership. There's been a lot of comments about, I don't know if it was
Jan Sorensfield,
one of our Canadian friends. One of our Canadian friends, just sacked the manager. Let's start with Soren. Let's start with you. Jem makes his apologies, by the way. It's a problem with a virgin. He hasn't had a problem with a virgin for a long, long time. But apparently they'll have the link finished by 12:30. So I'll get him back on, but I'm not staying on till 12:30. In fact, I'm thinking, we're an hour and 37 in. I think we've exhausted most of what we're gonna cover. So let's just go through. We all overreact, and it was a bad defeat. So to some extent, you can't overreact. But what do we do now? Where do we go from here?
I think
manager, personnel.
I think it's one of those. I mean, it always comes when it's a chuffing international break. The best thing we could have had is a game in 2 or 3 days' time, probably. But look, he's got to get them on that training pitch again and just drum into them that if you're winning 2-0 at half time, you do not give that game up. We just can't keep going there, and that's the problem. You at 1-0, you always say the next goal's critical. At 2-0, it's like, well, the next goal's critical for us because if we go 2-1, we know where it's heading. So we've got to become more defensive at times.
Yeah.
I mean, look, as much as I will defend Ange, and I'm totally behind him, today we've got to critique him. But I think going forward, he's got to learn from this as well. He's got to see that if we go 2-1 down, as the manager, he needs to come out and change something, do so, get ready to be doing something. I mean, look, if we're winning 2-0 and it's 80 minutes, 85 minutes, and suddenly it's 2-1, 2-2, there's not a lot you can do. If you're going down to 2-1, 2-2 by the 60th minute, you should be doing something. And so as a manager, he's got to look at himself and think, well, I need to change things sooner. I've seen it so many times now that these players, if we lose a goal close to halftime, before halftime or whatever, they can lose their heads too quickly. So he's got to drum into them to be more focused. Team-wise, again, we've said it so many times this season, we've got to keep putting away our chances, because at 1-0, 2-0, it is not safe for us. We've got to be 3-0, at least 3-0. But we've just got to stop making mistakes as well. That's what's killing us most. I mean, look, we go back to last season and all we kept saying was, oh, it's that ball over the top. It's that ball over the top. Well, we've kind of cut that out now. It's defensive errors against free kicks and set pieces. Well, we've kind of cut that out now as well. Now what's happening? They're running down the wings and crosses are coming in far too easily. We've got to cut that out now. So defensively, we've got to be stronger. Ange needs to be, his in-game management needs to be quicker. And, these substitutions, because that's his job. So after that, we've just got to win. We've got to come back next game, get it out of our system, and get back onto our winning games again.
Yeah, it's West Ham away next, though.
Well, that's an easy game then, isn't it?
Well, yeah. It's a cup final.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, where do you see us going here?
Right, now, I just want Ange, as someone put in the chat, I want him to be proactive instead of reactive. It's right making these, by the time we make substitutes when we're 3-2 down, it's too late then. You should have made them at 2-1 or 2-2 at the very latest. You got to be proactive in situations, not reactive. Well, put it this way, I want everyone. I know I'm always seen as a bit of a moaner when I come on here, but I want everyone at Tottenham to be successful. I really do. But if I see it fit to critique people, then I will. And today, Andrew's got to take a lot of the blame for what happened, because when they showed him on Sky, all he does is he stood on the side with his hands in his pockets. He's shaking his head. Has he ever been a sort of shouty manager anyway? I mean, you saw him a lot in Scotland, Ian.
Yeah. Was he a what manager?
A shouty manager. Did he? No. I'd like to see that as well. But if he's not that, he's not that. But
the criticism. I mean, there's a lot of managers that weren't shouty managers. For some reason, there's a view now that the manager has to be jumping up and down, ranting on the touchline like Arteta to be a proper manager. I mean, there was a time when managers sat in the stand, and the manager sat in the stand because you can actually see the game, whereas on the touchline, your view is fairly limited. I'd probably like him to be a bit more animated, if I'm honest. But I think more to the point is being proactive in his changes. Well, go on. I'm so disappointed. Let's bring Jose in. As I say, we're starting to come to the end of the chat now. I want to plug next week again, but Jose, let's have your thoughts.
Right, what I did is I stepped away because the family wanted to watch TV and stuff like that. So I stepped away after the game and done a few bits, and then I've jumped on here. So I've not seen anything from post-match. However, I'm led to believe that he's done some interviews. I don't know whether it's on Sky or whether he's done it for Tottenham Hotspur TV or whoever. But his words are interesting. And I think he talks about being devastated about the result today, and it's not acceptable and stuff like that. So I'll be interested to see his interview. Where do we go from here? Well, a lot of the players go out on international duty. They won't be seen till possibly Wednesday week at the very latest. A lot of them. and then we roll on to our next match against West Ham on the Saturday. The only people, I suppose, some of the people that are not called on international duty will get some time off, a few days away from the grass. So they'll be given some rest time, but the people who've gone international duty get no rest time whatsoever. And then I think he referred to in one of his interviews, if I'm right, he referred to saying that today's not the time to digest and dissect everything, but the time will be for that when they all return and he's got everyone in the one room again. So, where do we go from here? Well, there's not much we can say. We go on a downer, if you want, as fans. I'm hoping the players feel the same way as well, and so does the manager. But we go on a downer now into the international break because we've got to put up with 2 weeks of international football before we get to see our beloved team play again. And obviously, when we see our beloved team play again, we want them to right a wrong in the sense that we want them to right the wrong of the second half today, and we want them to pick up all 3 points against West Ham, and that's where we're going to be because transfer window's closed. So you can't change anything that we've got at the moment. We've got that to keep saying we've got that hand that's been dealt to us, and we've got to keep that hand until January. So not much changes. We just come back after the international break, get everyone together, and move on to the West Ham game. And my hope is that we then go on another run. We've taken the blip now. We've taken the L. We need to start getting the W's again. So let's go on a run when we get back.
Adrian?
Well, Andrew's got some serious thinking to do, isn't he? I mean, like, do you play Udogie in the next game or bring Spence in for one? I mean, we know that most games are won and lost in midfield. First half midfield cracking, second half midfield was anonymous, right? So we know that Decky, Maddison and Bentancur does work, but we know that if you were to play it for 38 games, obviously some games it performed better. And we also know that another blend of it, Basuma, Sarr and Maddison works because that worked in the first games at the beginning of the last season. So he's got to find a blend that he thinks that, right, if we get in these situations where we're overrun, I can change things. We know that he's adapted because Decky's now playing as a midfielder as well. People keep using the numbers 6, 8 and 10. I like what Ozzy said on his show the other day, just prefers to call them all midfielders. Back in the day, it was just a defensive midfielder, an attacking midfielder, and a central midfielder. And that's the way I like to look at it as well. But there's enough talent in this squad for us to get. We know we're not going to win the league, right? We knew it from the beginning, right? But like, there's enough talent in this squad to get us top 4 still. I mean, like, it's just this is so disappointing. I'm almost as gutted as I was after losing the derby. So disappointing, but. I mean, like, it's one game. We're how many 7 games into the season? It's so early, but every day is treated like an apocalypse, isn't it? Every game when you lose, it's treated like the apocalypse. But Ange takes some stick, but the players also, I mean, like, Udogie needs to be dropped as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. To me,
can I just say as well, can I just say one last thing? This is the definition of Spursy. The name that we all want to go. The name that we all want to go.
Stop it.
None of us like it, but today was the definition of it.
I can't believe them words came out of your mouth, Mr. Cousins.
No, I feel ashamed for saying it.
Well, what are so a second half performance today has been bad, right? And the whole game against Coventry was a shambles. But apart from that, we played decent football. Whether we got results or not, the football and the stats back it up. The possession backs it up. So we're not far off, but we're still going to stumble. There's still going to be bumps during this season like this,
Football in the first half was stunning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the talent. Look, it's there. It's just that we're flaky at times, and like we lack bite and aggression. We don't have enough. Which we need when things like go wrong like they did today, and which we can't seem to put on the field, But I mean, last season we shored it up with Højbjerg or Skip, even though they weren't the players going to take us forward. But
I'll be honest. I normally don't take. I do YouTube. I do a lot of the WhatsApp chats, Facebook stuff, and what have you. But if we lose a game, it doesn't kill me. There's more important things, you know.
It just
that
upsets
go
you,
on in
doesn't
the
it?
world, you know, and
Yeah.
what have you. But today has really got me. Has really got me
Frustrating.
badly.
So frustrating.
I think the fact that we played so well, looked so good. I'm watching this and thinking, this is a top quality side, Tottenham Hotspur, a top quality side. And by the end of it, I'm looking at it and thinking, how could I even think that? Because we disintegrated so badly. And that's what you mean by Spursy, Mark.
Okay, it is. And I apologise for using that word. I do apologise for using it. But
unfortunately, that was the epitome of Spursy today.
We should have ignored the fact that they scored to go 2-1 and carried on doing what it seemed that it's setting a mindset that like, oh, they've scored against us. Now, do we go for the third goal or what do we do? We seem to be like we didn't know whether to stick or twist at 2-1.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed to be with me. And like, and what happened was then we just lost all cohesion after that. You know.
Yeah.
The thing is, at half time, if somebody had said to you, would you take the draw? You wouldn't have even considered it, would you?
No.
Hang on.
That's how stupid that game was. That, you know, and I said it as soon as I came on. That old saying, it's a game of two halves. Absolutely, just this game was that epitome. And at 2-0, you did not see a way back in for them. Well, I didn't anyway. I mean, they were not coming back into this. I was sat there thinking 3-4-0, full stop.
At half time, I was thinking 4-5.
Yeah, I was. I had us to win 4-1 on Jose's prediction.
I had 2-0.
2-0.
So, I had 3-1 to us. I had 3-1.
I had 3-1.
I'm thinking.
I always knew it was going to be a low-scoring game. I went 2-1.
But hey, look, tomorrow's another day. We live to fight another day.
Julie Welsh.
Guys in the chat, I don't know, Peter, it was you, I think, that alerted something. I wasn't having Mark on the show. Nothing was further from the truth, and I genuinely don't know where that idea come from. Bloody rumours, eh?
It weren't Peter. It weren't Peter. It was other people. It weren't Peter.
2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in football. I've been saying that for about 50 years. Absolutely.
Well, without being funny, 3-0 for a Tottenham game is the worst score because he's still. Look, I mean, remember the game at Man United? We were 3-0 up at half time and lost 5-3.
Can you remember the game at White Hart Lane when we were 3-0 up against Man City and they had a player sent off at half time and we lost 4-3?
Lost 4-3. Wasn't that a cup game?
3-1 up.
It was.
3-0 up against West Ham with 8 minutes to go and they drew 3-3.
Yeah. Look, there is no better team to support than Tottenham. There is something to discuss every single game.
Dr. Tottenham will see you next.
I need to do some thank yous, particularly for those of you in the chat, particularly those of you that have been on most or all of the night. We've been up into the 80s today. We're a bit down now, but perhaps not surprising. I think it drops off as the show drops off. Next week on this channel, I will be doing an interview with the legendary Julie Welsh, journalist,
first female sports reporter.
Say that again.
First female sports reporter.
First female sports reporter ever. Yeah, what I was going to say, for those of you that are old enough, you'll know who she is. If you're not, Google her, and please switch on next Sunday, 8 o'clock BST, because I hope I can make it really interesting. I think it will be a really interesting show, and I hope we get the numbers that Julie deserves.
Is she the one that's in the film, Ian?
She wrote those glory days. Yeah.
Did she have anything to do with the film? Because right at the end of that film, there's a female reporter.
I think she is in it because I think you see her. She's in it as playing herself because she became her mentor was Danny Blanchflower.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away because these are all the things I'm going to ask her. But she was incredibly friendly with Danny Blanchflower, who mentored her. And I am going to talk about the fact that people are going to be listening in about going to a football ground where there wasn't a toilet for a lady reporter. Need to put the link in, please. We'll get that to you. It will be, if you follow the Spurs diet, if you subscribe and set an alert for the Spurs Diehards channel on YouTube.
Do you want me to see if I can find it quickly? Is it next Sunday?
If you need to, seriously, and all of you
need to subscribe to your channel. She's here. She's subscribed to your channel.
Because as soon as we go on air, suddenly people come flying on. But yes, look, I don't want to take away the thunder about all the things I'm planning to ask her. But in a day where women at football made the tees, from that to becoming the first proper female reporter.
Oh, she had a part with chauvinism.
Yeah, they weren't accepted. Sorry, Jose, did you say something there?
Yeah, I was just saying that Nita is in your. She is subscribed to your channel because she's in your chat and she's subscribed to your channel.
Course.
So Nita, all it is, it's at the same time next week. Ian's show's at 8 o'clock next Sunday.
But
so
if you set there's a
notification.
You
the notification.
Hit the bell. The bell sets an alert. Because there's several channels, Jose's in particular, Collins, there's one or two others, Kate and Jimbo's, where my phone buzzes to tell me those stations are going live. So get it and then you'll know. But yeah, please, I think you'll find it interesting, Nita. I really do. So those of you that are still here, thank you very much. To my pal Jem, who had a bit of a problem, I'll have him back next time. Soren, thank you for coming on. Mark, as I was absolutely forced to have you on. I'm glad you made such a positive contribution, and I
always do
to have you back on. Jose, always a pleasure, my friend. Not only for you, because I always love to hear what you have to say, but bringing some of your crowd in as well to give us some really big numbers tonight.
And on a positive note, our under-21s went away to Arsenal. We were 2-0 down at half-time, and we won 5-2. 5 goals in the second half. And our under-18s won 4-3. They beat Man United at home. They beat Man United 4-3 at home.
Yeah.
So a little bit of happy news.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, Graham. Cheers, Graham. You're always a positive man as well. We move on. We do indeed. I've got a smile on my face. I've been chatting with my friends on the chat, even put those names I don't know because they use pseudonyms, and I wouldn't know them in the street and what have you. We're all pals. We're all Spurs at the end of the day. I haven't gone out I haven't put any theme music to go out with. Not sure I really want to be honest. Is there anything?
They don't deserve it today.
Sorry?
The side doesn't deserve it today.
No, it doesn't, does it? It doesn't. So we're just in the stream.
Should go out
guys,
on
I'll see you
Jim.
in the back room for a few minutes. An hour and 57. I thought we'd be well under 2 hours today, but we never are. I talk too much as well. Guys, thank you all for one more comment in there.
Hold on. Sorry.
Ian, we should go out on Goodbye My Lover from James Blunt.
Yeah.
We've only got football music in it, unfortunately. I've only downloaded loads of football chants and music, our chants and music. Yeah.
Actually, we should have had the chat.
Unless you want me, we could play you out of the Benny Hill theme, right?
Well, how about D-Ring? Things can only get better.
How about the Benny Hill theme? Because it was a bit of a fast.
Or what Laura did it.
We would have been safe until Mark came on.
The Benny Hill theme. Ian,
we would have been safe until Mark came on. We could have gone out with Happy.
Yeah.
No, I'm always happy.
I'm only joking, man. I'm going from the other night. You were really up for it, and now
I said the quad was on and everything.
Yeah,
the quad's still on. The quad's still on.
And
guys, I'm going to end it there.
Thanks
Christmas.
Very much,
everybody.
Yeah, he was fantastic.